December 14, 2001, deep in the Tora Bora mountains of Afghanistan. The CIA strike team had just got inside an unnaturally quiet safe house. The crew moved low and fast, their weapons drawn and their eyes scanning every corner. But no threat was found. Only a heavy feeling settled in the air and small signs suggesting that somebody was there a few minutes ago. A laptop screen glowed in the back of the room, and a chair was pushed back, slightly angled like someone had stood up quickly. This near capture wasn't unique. It had happened before in guest houses in Kandahar, in border towns like Spin Boldak, and later in safe houses across Pakistan. Every time the net closed, he somehow slipped through. By now, the CIA crew and Navy SEALs knew exactly which ghost they were chasing. That ghost goes by the name Abu Zubaydah. To the public, his name didn't mean much, but to intelligence agencies, it was everywhere. Some believed he was Al-Qaeda's chief of operations. Others thought he was their recruiter and gatekeeper. Nobody knew exactly what he did, but one thing was for sure: he was important, and every time they tried to catch him, he vanished. Who is Abu Zubaydah? How did he manage to stay on the loose for years, operating one of the largest terror organizations in the world? How did the US finally catch him? And what happened to him after? This is the decade-long manhunt for Al-Qaeda's brain, Abu Zubaydah. To understand why the United States was so desperate to capture Abu Zubaydah, you need to know who he was. Why every major intelligence agency was after him even before 9/11. He was born in Saudi Arabia and grew up during a time when young men were pouring into Afghanistan to join the Mujahideen against the Soviets. He wasn't a frontline fighter. He was something far more valuable. He organized, recruited, and created systems. When the battle shifted from fighting the Soviets to building a global network called Al-Qaida, Abu Zubaydah became one of its key coordinators. He helped run the Khaldan training camp in Afghanistan, a place where thousands of foreign fighters from around the world came to get trained. He kept records of trainees and decided who was trustworthy enough to get in. At only 22 years old, Abu Zubaydah became the gatekeeper of one of the most dangerous organizations in the world. But then 9/11 hit, and the United States elevated his status even further. He was labeled Al-Qaeda's chief of operations, a senior lieutenant, and Osama bin Laden's top recruiter. Some reports claimed he managed money and logistics for attacks, while others called him the planner of future operations. If they could capture him, they believed they could beat Al-Qaeda. What CIA officers hadn't realized yet was that catching him would prove almost impossible. From the 1990s, the CIA had eyes on Khaldan, the camp Abu Zubaydah oversaw. They knew high-level operatives moved through it and planned to strike it. But every time special operations teams prepared for a raid, the camp emptied out. Members vanished into the mountains. Buildings were cleared and documents were burned. It was as if someone inside the camp always knew exactly when to leave. When US forces finally reached Khaldan after 9/11, they found it abandoned. The tents were down and footprints of fighters trailed off towards the mountains. They found notebooks, sleeping mats, and false identities, but not a single high-value target. They were a few days late. Abu Zubaydah was gone. This would become the first of a series of failed capture attempts. It became a pattern. Each time the US got close, he disappeared. The chase did not stop at the mountains. Khaldan was remote, but cities were supposed to be different. In places like Peshawar and Karachi, the CIA believed it would be easier to track him using informants, phone intercepts, and surveillance units. They followed couriers connected to him. They watched safe houses. They trailed vehicles through crowded streets. In one operation, agents tracked a courier to a meeting in a busy neighborhood. They positioned teams on every street. They watched a car pull up and a man get inside. They followed the vehicle through traffic closely. They were ready to strike. Then the car made an unexpected stop. A crowd flooded the street and a second car pulled alongside. In a moment, identities were switched and people blended into the flow of the market. By the time the agents pushed forward, Abu Zubaydah was gone and a random man was found in the car. There was no violence or chase, just precise practiced counter-surveillance. He used decoys, alternate routes, quick exits, and human shields. He understood the chase as well as any intelligence agency. Every time they thought they had a clear trail, it went cold. After September 11th, the pressure was huge. The United States had just suffered the worst attack in history, and the government wanted names, answers, and results fast. Every agency was scrambling to piece together how 19 hijackers had slipped through security, how the plot had been funded and coordinated, and who might be planning the next attack. In Virginia, one name kept getting mentioned: Abu Zubaydah. He was no longer just a target, he was an obsession. Abu Zubaydah became the boogeyman, and they were willing to do whatever it took. After years of near misses, the United States decided to adapt a new strategy. Caution was thrown out the window, and government agencies were flooded with funding. Abu Zubaydah was now considered one of the most valuable figures in the network. The central agency believed if they got him, the entire system might go down. They began working more aggressively with foreign intelligence services, especially Pakistani intelligence. Former CIA officer John Kiriakou was on top of the manhunt.
We heard from our friends across the river that Abu Zubaydah is somewhere in the country. We have to catch him. And I go, you guys, I said, this country's the size of Texas. It's got 150 million people in it. What do you mean he's somewhere in Pakistan? You got to catch him. Well, I had a friend who was one of the top targeting analysts at the CIA. We were both in the counterterrorism center together. And when I was at headquarters, we would go for a walk at lunch together every day and just talk about, this is what they want you to do. Talk about operations and ideas and, stuff that you want to do. I called him and I said, can you get on a plane and come to Pakistan as quickly as possible?
To narrow the gap, a targeting analyst put up a board with Abu Zubaydah right in the center. Every piece of information they gathered around it. By week's end, it looked like a dense spiderweb, and still the analyst could only reduce his location to 14 likely sites. The plan was simple only on paper. All 14 locations would be hit at once. John Kiriakou requested immense funding from the United States government, and to his surprise, it was quickly approved. Most of the 14 sites looked modest and quiet, but one stood out: a large, bright yellow house in Faisalabad. With shutters sealed tight despite the heat, they marked it as Site 12 and assigned extra agents. It was time to strike. At 2 in the morning, the teams rolled in simultaneously. In the big yellow house, shots were fired. Site 12 was in contact. During the chaos, one figure tried to escape through the back door. The man was shot multiple times in the thigh and groin. He collapsed. At first, no one was certain who he was. His face didn't match the passport photo they had of him. But after some investigation and comparing ear shapes, it was confirmed. Abu Zubaydah was lying on the floor, bleeding, but alive. The priority shifted immediately from capture to survival. He was rushed to a Pakistani military hospital, where CIA officers stood over surgeons, making sure he was stabilized. Within days, he was secretly transferred out of Pakistan, placed on an aircraft, and flown to the first of several undisclosed secret prisons called black sites. No trial, no headlines, and no official statement. The public hunt for Abu Zubaydah was over, but the real disturbing story was just beginning. Before his interrogation even began, Abu Zubaydah disappeared into the network of black sites, secret prisons existing off the record, run with the quiet approval of the US government and often tucked inside military bases. Over the years, investigations have identified locations in Poland, Romania, Lithuania, and at least one site in Afghanistan known as the Salt Pit. When Abu Zubaydah vanished into CIA custody, his role changed instantly. He was no longer the ghost they couldn't catch. He became the first high-value detainee in what the agency would call the rendition, detention, and interrogation program. It was a system built in the urgency that followed 9/11. It allowed for extreme measures to get intel from prisoners with any means necessary. Abu Zubaydah was subjected to a set of methods the CIA labeled enhanced interrogation techniques. They stretched the legal definition of torture to its limits. He was waterboarded 83 times in a single month. He was kept in prolonged sleep deprivation, at times approaching 100 hours. He was forced into stress positions for extended periods of time, slammed against a wall in a technique called walling, sometimes locked inside small boxes, the coffin box strategy. Interrogators sometimes put people in very cold rooms, controlled lights and noise, either blasting sound and bright light or forcing total darkness and silence. Small food portions that kept prisoners hungry all the time. Each step was documented and justified internally as necessary to stop another attack. On paper, it was legal. In practice, not so much. Years later, the CIA's interrogation videotapes were destroyed. Investigations were open, and other government agencies got suspicious of what went on inside these black sites. Then came the proof.
Senate Intelligence Committee Democrats claimed the agency brutalized terror suspects, misled Congress and the White House.
Some of the tactics that were written about in the Senate Intelligence Report were brutal, and as I've said before, constituted torture in my mind.
But the real question remained: did the program actually work? In the years that followed his capture, the story the United States government told about Abu Zubaydah changed. The man once labeled a top Al-Qaida leader, the chief of operations and the gatekeeper, turned out to be something else. Abu Zubaydah was actually an independent fixer in the jihadist world.
But, we thought he was the number 3 in Al-Qaida.
Well, was he really?
He had never actually joined Al-Qaida. He founded Al-Qaeda's 2 training camps in southern Afghanistan. He founded the House of Martyrs, Safe House in Peshawar, Pakistan. He was Al-Qaeda's logistics guy.
Right.
So if you needed a false passport, a plane ticket, boat ticket, you needed weapons, you needed money transferred, he was the guy that did all that. But he had never actually joined Al-Qaeda. He never pledged fealty to Osama bin Laden.
If the first assessment was wrong, how justifiable were the torture methods used on Abu Zubaydah? And why is he still locked up to this day? How long can a government detain a person without trial? Right now, Abu Zubaydah is still at Guantanamo Bay. After 19 years, he has never been charged with a crime by the US government. Years of torture and the guilt over a wasted life spent behind bars.
So many of those guys were innocent of any crimes. And to lose 8, 10, 12 years of your life for nothing is inexcusable.
As presidents come and go, black sites are here to stay. If you're interested in becoming a YouTuber, whether a personal channel or a faceless one, we made a document to help you understand a few key points before you actually invest in YouTube. Click the link in the description. It's completely free. Subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.